Welcome to another session of Totally Endless Space 2. Instead, this time we're going to be playing Endless Legend, the sister game, sort of, the more fantasy-oriented Endless game, currently out. This game is quite old, but it's still receiving some support from the... Well, it's much older. Well, it's a bit older than Endless Legend, Endless Space. It's still receiving support from the developers, and the latest upgrade has added a new faction called the Kapaku, and dust eclipses, a new kind of event that can happen fairly often, and really changes the gameplay a decent amount. And I'm gonna play the Kapaku because they're one of the few factions I can beat the game on Endless with. Basically, unlike in Endless Space 2, the endless difficulty of this game is a lot more punishing in terms of how many more resources it has than you. And it's very easy to get sort of swept aside, even if you play a pretty good economic game. And if you fight wars, you're likely going to have to trade, very well. If you, for instance, win fights by losing 4 units for every 6 units they lose, that might not be good enough to win a long-term conflict, because the AI just has so many more resources than you do. And it sort of means whenever I play factions, I often just die by turn 40 because I can't raise armies, given the start and the faction I have. This means that factions with naturally powerful military and natural economic development do a lot better. In particular, the necrophages are probably the easiest to beat the game with on Endless, because, let's look at them. They have this unit called the Proliferator, which gives a parasite to a unit, and it turns opposing units when they die into new units. So you have kind of an endless stream of units, and that helps you overcome the sort of massive economic bullshit advantage that the AI has, and really fight it on similar terms, and it kind of lets the necrophages continue to push. What we have as the Kapaku that's really going to help us with that issue is, mostly the first nice thing is that we have a bunch of nice economic things, like we use volcanic terrain, and we get food on volcanic terrain, which means our terrain naturally has more FIDs or resources than other factions, which is great. We have Golem Camp, which is a very nice upgrade to a Burrow Street we can get. It's harder to defend, but it gives us way more resources, as we're going to get into later. We're so good with dust eclipses, meaning we can get enough dust to buy new heroes, etc. But the biggest thing for the Kapaku, in terms of keeping up with the Endless AI, is that it has a very powerful unit in the Golem Rider. It has a charge attack for its cavalry, and it has attacks in a circle. So I found with the Kapaku I can really beat the AI in fights very convincingly, at least as long as our armies are well rested. And that's really sort of necessary in this game on Endless difficulty. And it's, I guess, a good reason to play the Kapaku. Let's watch the opening cinematic. Really, I'm sure I'm not the greatest Endless Legend player. Or at least I feel a lot more comfortable playing Endless Space 2. And I think part of it, I'm not sure how much it has to do with my lack of skill or practice, but I still feel like the Endless AI in this game is a bit overtuned, and because the way they balance these games has to do with just making the AI not necessarily smarter, but more resource rich, because it just doesn't play as well as a human player would. It often feels sort of unfair, and that's part of the reason I haven't played this game as much as Endless Space 2. And I've only recently tried to get back into it, and sort of by sheer force of willpower, butted my head against the wall. I played a bunch of. I was really trying to make them Wargore work, and my issue with them was that they're really fun, and they have really nice sea control and wonderful FIDs bonuses from the ocean tiles. But the real downside is that it's sometimes hard to just muster enough armies to not get completely crushed by your neighbors within the first, like, 40, 50 turns or so. It's more like a 50-turn timing attack that they often do. But yeah, those are problems I have with other factions, and not with the Kapaku, because they're great.
Our world was a paradise of ash and fire until the gods brought their doom upon us. Even with our goals, our ingenuity, we were no match for their power. Broken and scattered, we would have perished if not for our saviors. They brought us to this world, gave us a new purpose. And new powers to make it ours. And we will make it ours, no matter the sacrifice.
Cool, so that kind of reminds me of my favorite faction from Endless Space 2, the Riftborn. Very similar, we have a situation where Old World has been destroyed, and we have to make do on a new, unfamiliar planet. Actually, I think I should have... The thing is, when you search ruins and success, you get a bit of science, and I probably should have just picked a science initially. Though it looks like it's been decreased by a little bit. I hope. It shouldn't matter, actually, I think. Hopefully. So, how do we start? We always... In Endless Legend, you always start with 2 basic units. So the units you have unlocked at the start of the game. And a hero. So, unlike in Endless Space 2, where basically every hero can be a governor, you have... Not every hero is suited to be a governor in Endless Legend. And the medium tree is kind of underwhelming. And as you can see, there's one trait that's good for governing in this one, Inspirational Leader. But these ones are much less... I mean, I guess Cold Operator is nice. But in general, this middle tree is much less useful than in Endless Space 2, and that kind of means that not every hero can do everything. Every hero has a tree on the left, which is a class tree, which is good for... basically, it normally has combat perks, so every hero can be a warrior, if you spec them for that. But these faction traits are normally what determine how good of a governor or spy or whatever your hero is going to be. I should say that I'm playing with all of the DLCs that include a new faction. I haven't gotten the Guardians one because I wasn't that interested in that. Let me know if you think that content pack is worth picking up for one of these Let's Plays. So anyway, we have upgrades like Volcanology, Heart of the Hearth, and Blazing Ingenuity, and these are really quite appealing for a governor on a volcanic tile. And especially this, extra resource deposits. And that's something we can think about because the Kapaku are all about volcanic tiles. And we can make more volcanic tiles by using these volcano formers on terrain which isn't volcanic. And we get them by turning strategic resources into volcano formers, or turning strategic resources into volcano formers and then into volcanic terrain. But we have to plan ahead to do that. So it's very important that we use our early game units to scout around, figure out where we want to be, and once we're at that location, we can just put down our volcano formers, and then 5 turns from them we can settle there. And that's especially important because we can't get food from any terrain that isn't volcanic. And this is a pretty big restriction, but the rewards are really there. You can use these buttons here to transfer units and split off units, just like in Endless Space 2, basically. You want to scout in lots of different directions. So, as you can see, these terrains each have basic industry and science, but they also each have food terrains. They also each have food bonuses, and they only have food bonuses because we're playing as the Kapaku. Only we can access these food bonuses, so we're getting a lot of extra resources from these terrains that other factions simply don't have access to. Now, this here is a mountain. You always have to look in hexes what kind of values you're getting from the terrain. Like here, we're getting amazing value from this one tile because there's an anomaly there, Earth Spine, which is great. But unfortunately, we're not getting anything really from this tile because there's a mountain on there. And if we put it over here, for instance, we're not getting anything from these two tiles because they're out of the borders of the region. So you really have to think, where do we want to settle? And this is not an easy decision. We can, I think, move our hero, because our hero is a cavalry hero. Forgot to mention that. As you can see by rock lava horse. So our hero can move quite quickly. And here, look at that. That is a lava flow, which is amazing. That's something we really want to think about. I mean, later in the game, we can get this magma, which makes lava flow terrain extremely desirable in the long term. But currently it's not volcanic terrain. So I'd like this lava flow, but currently the terrain itself is unexciting. So we'd have to change something about that before we went there. It looks like our starting location is quite underwhelming in general. I mean, here we have a river terrain. This is actually not bad. But the problem is we might have to wait a turn to get there. It might be overall better than starting here, but it's going to cost us in terms of... I mean, the real issue with this settlement is we would like to be here, but unfortunately can't build on these stupid temples. So, great. Thanks, dude. We can move in this direction. These are our trusty stone sentinels. So when the Kapaku came to Auriga, which is the planet where Endless Legend takes on, it's connected to the rest of the Endless universe. In Endless space, we have the Endless, who are basically the gods of the universe, or the old dominant civilization, who left behind all this wonderful technology like dust, etc. And Endless Legend takes place on a planet which was once used by the Endless, as we're going to see in this story. Now, the real question is, do we want to settle? Well, do we want to settle in a spot where it's like settling for this? Or do we want to go for that? And we think this is going to be way better. I mean, we're only losing out one tile here. The problem is we're going to have to think about how our city can expand. And ideally, you're going to expand your city like a triangle. You can look up SB's guides for Endless Legend. He basically explains this really nicely. If you put things in a triangle, there's this thing with cities where if you put more city components, more extra hexes next to each other, they level up, meaning that they become more powerful. So you want to think in advance, how many hexes can I place around here and how much is it going to benefit me? So the problem with this location is not only we're missing out on this tile. Wait, this tile is not giving us anything, as you can see, because it's a stupid mountain. We're missing out on this tile, but also we can't really expand that well. We'd have to go along here, and then we're missing out on tiles there as well. So if we go for the settle, we're gonna... This is kind of like a short-term thing. We're admitting that this region is not the greatest, but we're gonna try and look for something better to expand in that region. Or we can go for this, which is potentially better in the long run, but it's also quite cramped. I mean, here we can go like this, and then we have at least 3 good city tiles. And we can maybe make a golem camp there. Golem camps, by the way, are these things. And once we get to them, I will show you how amazing they are. They're really a huge draw to playing this faction. I mean, this is a really tough decision, actually. This is going to give us a bit more... Wait, for some reason the tooltip isn't showing me how many resources I get here. Okay, there. We're going to get a way more science here. a bit less dust. We're going to get a bit more happiness, which is very nice, because then normally cities are at 50% happiness. Currently with 0% because we don't have a city. But if you settle next to a happiness tile, then you get benefits immediately, which is, it's way harder to keep happiness high in this game than it is in Endless Legend, but the benefits are very similar. Sorry, Endless Space. I mean, this location is similarly choked on space. It's possible that it gets way better down here. So if we go like, we place it here, and then we go along here, and then here. I think we just have to do this. This first city is very awkward for us, but we can always make other cities our base of operations. So now let's talk about initial sciences. We start with geothermic labs, which is nice. It lets us turn terrain with science on it into extra science. And we have a decent amount of science in our first location. By the way, settling next to ruins is also good for us. It gives us way more science. So this location is perfect, except for the stupid rock here. Stupid. And also because of the limited expansion opportunities make this location not ideal, but it's good in the short term. So the real question is, do you want to get this mill foundry sooner? And the mill foundry is one of the best starting upgrades because it gives you industry. And industry helps you build all the important stuff. The other important thing in the early game is having enough food that you can continue to build populations. And the cool thing about populations, also the tedious thing about populations in this game, is that you can move them around to give you different resources. So food is super important because the more populations you have, the more you can just switch around these workers to get you what you need in an individual spot. And often you want to be building up food early if you're playing economically, because later in the game you want to dump everything into science or dust or whatever you're trying to use to win. Or just put them into industry to produce things faster. So food is important, and we have that. And this Founders Memorial is also important, because it gives you a general upgrade on everything. We already have huge science and dust. Well, dust is not super huge, but it's pretty good. We have huge science from this location, and we already have a happiness boost, which is good. Our happiness is boosted. Oh, it's normally 60. 60 is a content base, which is not great, but whatever. So our happiness is high enough that we get some bonuses to science and also dust, meaning we're currently breaking even despite having... For some reason, the game punishes you for having lots of different armies at different locations and splitting them up by making them cost more dust, which is irritating, but yeah. So again, Mill Foundry, I was talking about this earlier and I forgot about it, is a good choice for industry. And a nice thing about the Kapaku is the fact that when you search ruins you get science really helps you speed these out. But language square is also important because it lets you talk to these minor faction villages. And what that does is that you can do quests for them and convert them to your side. And if you do that, they won't make units that attack you, firstly, which is, pretty solid. And secondly, you can just talk to them and complete a quest for them, and then they'll actually join you and be pacified. And what that does is if you have a city in the same region as the pacified region, you get an extra population on that city from that region, from that building. Which is obviously great because, we already talked about how we want to actually prioritize food and just getting a population on the side. Not for free, because you have to work for it, but that's good. Now, picking up these extractors soon is something we want to do, because we rely heavily on strategics because of these volcano formers, but we need the industry to do it. So let's get the Mill Foundry for that first, but I think I want to get Language Square before that. And we have enough science that I think it's fine to delay the Mill Foundry because we're going to get it quickly anyways. Language Square and Mill Foundry are really the two biggest ones here. And then it depends on what you need, what you get next. If you need a lot of science, then Public Library is great. It's pretty solid anyways. If you need more dust, you can get Empire Mint. That's nice. If you have something worth extracting, Open Pit Mine is good. Normally this is a must at some point, the Alchemist Furnace, but we have it unlocked at the start anyway, which is nice. Geomic Labs is not super great, but it's okay to have, you know. But the Alchemist Furnace is great because it unlocks higher tier weapons later, and these are very necessary because fighting battles is so important against the AI, I don't know, against the AI, because the AI is very aggressive. If you're like on the border of an AI, it will often just attack you the next turn. Okay, this last thing I should mention, the Kapaku are good with eclipses. So, an eclipse happens in 13 turns. We're the only faction that can predict that. All other factions don't know when eclipses happen. And when an eclipse happens, these temples will be searchable again, and they'll give you improved rewards. So what that means is that we can set ourselves up very well to get the most out of eclipses, get a lot of cash out of them. And with that extra dust, we can use Mercenary Market to buy extra heroes early or whatever. Really nice. And also, obviously, we're getting extra science by searching runes. Okay. So, the story is basically about us leaving our home planet and coming into this horrible world of Origa where not everything is made of volcanoes, which is sad. And we came here with Overseer Eloise, who is an Endless, and it's saved the Kapaku from the Sowers, beings from Endless Phase 1, which attacked its planet, or attacked their planet. And Custodian Tua is the Kapaku aid to Overseer Eloise, or I don't know, they're often like, they're two basically very important people on the ship, which brought us here. The Kapaku have an important saying about that. Only the flames give their warmth freely, meaning that obviously we can't maybe trust the Endless, etc. So we've decided to have 5 units of a strategic resource stockpiled, and that will let us start making volcano formers. And we can get some grass silk as a reward, which will make everyone happier and increase trade routes for 10 turns. The way luxuries work in this game, by the way, is you activate a luxury as a booster, and it costs more if you have more cities. And for a couple of turns, it gives you a bonus. So it's not like Endless Legend, Endless Phase 2, where you use luxuries to permanently boost something, a system. Instead, you use luxuries to boost your empire for a limited amount of time. And if you produce more in your, produce more luxuries in your systems or cities, you could very quickly, you can make sure you keep those as active for as long and often as possible. You know, I'm getting so confused between the two games. System, cities. Same, basically. So Grasshook is basically not the best. Extra dust on trade routes. We don't have trade routes yet. And we don't have happiness worries, actually. Because we're just in the happy zone, so yeah, that should be okay. I'm just going to send my hero here, Scout, and I think I'll just send them back here. There's a him, right? Yeah, it is. And we'll talk to this village on the next turn. Yeah. And this brave, rocky soldier can do the same here. We just want to make sure that we talk to these villagers before we wander off in different directions. A good reason to split up these units is if you want to cover as much ground as possible. A bad thing about it is that it reduces your dust income. So it costs more to have more different armies than have one singular army. And at some point we want to link them up when we think we're not getting value of having these multiple armies. Fortunately, our start has a lot of dust. So it's not that bad. It has enough dust to sustain it, basically. But if we were bleeding dust very aggressively here, we would have to think about joining the armies again. And since we have so much dust, we can actually think about just rushing out the Founders Memorial. We need this worker on food to get more workers soon. And Founders Memorial will give us benefits over time. We don't need this dust, we don't have to stockpile it for anything. We could stockpile it for a hero, say, but I think in the Dust Eclipse we'll get enough to get a hero. And we really want to kickstart our starting location. Just checking that there aren't... Well, there are idle movements, but they're not getting much use out of them. I guess we can look around this corner and then come back. I think our hero is well positioned on this square. We can position him on this square. Maybe that's a little bit better, because we can go down here. Oh, there's another magma tile here. That's looking good for us. So already I'm planning ahead and thinking, when I get this upgrade, I'm going to be so happy if I can just settle on these magma flows. Because it gives you, I believe, once you build the upgrade, you get 8 bonus science and 8 bonus industry on lava flow terrain. So say you put your city, we put our city, or not even our city, or golem camp over here, like in the middle of this. Then we're getting 3 times 8 science and industry. So 24 science and industry from lava flow alone from that building on lava flow towers. And we could just make more burrows along the lava flow. Or burrows are these things, basically. They're actors. They're like an extension to your city. You add an extra hex, get more tiles from that. So, if we can settle these lava flows, it will be really nice at some point. Or just think about putting up settlements in these regions. There are obviously other considerations, but if we can get that up in the later game, so by Area 3, we can really get a lot of value out of those lava flows with the upgrade. So now we're getting more friendly in a turn because of our 6 science output at the start of the game. Again, the Kapaku, it doesn't matter too much if your science is not that good at the start because of the searching ruins bonus. But given that how good our science is here, we're really accelerating our science production, picking up all the useful buildings. Really makes me think that this was the correct settle location, despite being awkward. It's important to think about these things, but like the future is a little bit grim for this place, but it's still a very solid location to settle, and I think we should be happy with our start. So they want emeralds. Emeralds are a luxury resource. They're complete garbage. If I had any, I would give them to them in a heartbeat, but sadly I don't. This is kind of annoying. Ideally, you want the starting region here to have a population that is, or a faction that is very easy to convert by doing their quest. We don't, which is annoying. We could try and bribe them, but I spent all the dust the other turn thinking I had nothing to waste on it. I mean, spending 170 dust is a lot, but to get an extra population faster, I can see it happening. Generally, bribing is not something you do. You rather either attack them or party with them, ideally. Okay, if we colonize this region, we can get emeralds, which we can then use to pay off these people. So that's great. We just have to make sure that this region isn't complete garbage. And that's why I'm just going to send our brave little group of stone sentinels, which actually look kind of terrifying from here. By the way, I zoom out because it's just the easiest way to play the game. If you zoom in like this, you see all these details, and it's harder to focus on like the essential elements. But maybe I should zoom in more. We've got 7 points of science, again, kind of nice. It doesn't look like we're really choked on science. We might want to pick up the siege storage first, because getting extra population is good. And the thing about this, it only works well during winter. You get during summer. You get 10 bonus food and then 50% food bonus. And during the start of the game, the 10 bonus food is more important by far. Because early on, flat bonuses are more important later on. So just like percentage bonuses are more important. That's kind of just how it works. When you have more food, more percentage food is way better than 10 bonus food. But at the moment, we have to worry about this 10 bonus food. And we want to get it sooner rather than later, because if you delay it, then you get it just before winter happens, which is the counter here. And then once winter happens, this is kind of dead. You spent industry on an upgrade that doesn't actually improve your empire that much. But that being said, we can get it quite quickly here. We don't have to worry about science. I don't think we have to pick this up. So I like getting siege storage a bit faster. In this game, I think more than Endless Space 2, food is really important. In Endless Space 2, the food upgrades are a lot more mediocre than in this game. Okay. We can talk to that village. I don't think standing on the lava will burn us. No, because we're Kapaku. The other faction standing on lava will set you on fire. So that's not good. Well, so they want 50 dust. The question is, do they have an easy quest? Actually, their quests just tend to be easy, to be honest. So what this quest is always either give them 5 titanium, 5 glass steel, or have the hero talk to the other village. I mean, in each case you have to go to a different village in the same region, but sometimes you have to offer them glass steel, sometimes you have to offer them titanium. And glass steel and titanium are these strategic resources. But sometimes instead you can just talk to them with your hero. And I think I do want to colonize this region at some point. Here's a nice anomaly. Here's the lava flow. That's always nice. And here's some extra anomalies. And we have emeralds, which I'm not in love with, but it's close to our main region, which is always good. It's nice that you can defend your regions in a compact way, like, you know, if they're close enough to each other. Yeah, I guess we can party. Okay, we need to bring 5 glass steel to the other village. That's irritating. Sadly, we got unlucky enough to pick up the glass steel and not titanium or the hero version, which would have both been better for us. And we can just move over there. But that means we have to pick up these 5 glass steel first, probably. Actually, I could have done that in the opposite order. But I'll be getting Mill Foundry this turn anyways. Now, we could pick up more population faster, but I think we probably want to rush out the Mill Foundry. Once we have the Mill Foundry, we can get all of these things. And just getting these rolling quickly is more important. It's quite important. Because we want a fair number of volcano formers relatively soon. And it looks like we're going to need strategics anyway. Yeah, we gained a level. Now, what do we want to do with this hero? At this point, we have to think about, do we want to use our hero as a governor? Whoop, whoop, whoop. That was jumping the gun. Get bonus science and industry. And normally, in Endless Space, I would always use this hero, my first hero as a governor. Almost always. But, honestly, in this game, battles matter a lot more. They're a lot closer. And this hero is a pretty good combat hero. Especially since we pick up this movement perk early. And movement perks are, as usual, really good in the Endless games. Covering extra ground faster is really nice. And in general, the cavalry units we get for this hero is really strong. So I'm just going to keep upgrading that. I mean, I could have saved the point to be flexible, and there was no real cost to doing it, so that was optimal, but I don't think, at the same time, I really don't think I'm going to do something else with this hero other than use it militarily. Okay, so there's nothing around this corner. We could have probably guessed that, but yeah. I guess always good to check if there's a random temple. That was possibly a mistake. I don't really know the maps well enough. Why can't I talk to them? Do I have a quest in this region? Oh, I do. We're supposed to colonize this. And then we get the emeralds to pay these people off. So I guess we want to do that sooner rather than later. In that case, we probably should have gotten this extractor faster. Yeah, which one is... We should have spent more time working on the... Well, I should have. That was on me, like, I'm sorry. So, this is a nice spot. Wizard Stone. That seems great. A centerpiece of stone art resembles a flaming eye. Strange magic gives us happiness? I don't know how, this freaks me out. But like, this is a wonderful selling spot. And we're just going to check that it's actually great up there too. And I think we're just going to have to rush out these extractors. So that we can just volcano form this area very quickly. Build a settler after that. Probably after the seed storage. Seed storage. Well, we'd have to build the settler super quickly. We can delay the settler if we're building up our main city a bit more. And we kind of do want extra populations before we start crippling our population by using settlers. We can rush this out aggressively. But I'm also not sure if I should rush this out, giving that will gimp our food production. But the thing is, we can just pick up seed storage. Siege storage would also make sense if we're under siege and we use the storage, right? But I guess I'm going to go for Mill Foundry, pick up the siege storage, upgrade it on my city, and then I'm just going to have way more food. It's on its own, it's going to give us more food than these two workers combined. So I think it's worth moving off food because of that. But again, I'm explaining my reasons, but I'm not an expert in this game by any means. I feel confident that I can play the Kapaku pretty well, and I feel confident that I can play the Cravers, Necrophages. I mean, come on, they're basically the same, like Eternal War, etc. So this location is spectacular. We definitely want to settle that in volcano format. This location is cool too. I think we can easily complete that quest. But we don't have to rush this. I mean, colonize this region. Oh, what? How are there so many emeralds in this fucking place? Sorry for the swearing. Like, how? Nobody even likes emeralds. Except for real life emeralds. They're kind of cool, I guess. But like, in this game, emeralds are garbage. What they give you is a 40% fortification increase on cities, which would be nice, except at the point where you're relying on fortification, you're kind of already screwed. Now at this point, we somehow have seed storage earlier, because we researched some ruins. And we can use dust to rush out the Mill Foundry, and that's probably something we should do. Based on... I guess specifically just based on... Wait. That's weird. We can do it again, but it costs 0. Interesting. So, the reason we want to rush it out is because we don't need to stockpile this dust at the moment, and when the dust eclipse hits, I feel confident we can get enough dust to pick up a governor. Since we're, you know, committing this hero a bit to non-governor things like killing people. Which is something we'll have to do because the Endless Air is relentless. So we should have to pacify these people, we have to kill those people, but we want to be friends with those people, so like, ugh. Wait, where is the other village? Let me make sure I can find that village. To the other Nidya village. Where is it? Is it here? Is it here, maybe? I hope it's not that one, because then we have to attack the village. We need to... In that case, this quest has locked us out of this quest, which would be awful. Well, we still have this region to colonize, so it's not the end of the world if that happened. But that's super annoying. It's really annoying that you can't just reject the quest if you don't want to attack this place. Because now we can't really talk to it anymore. Okay, now we have Mill Foundry. And we can get the siege storage up and running. I guess we're going to go for the titanium first. I think we could have had the titanium out already if I hadn't diverted the glass deal in my, like a panic move, basically. That was a misstep, I suppose. Ah, here is the final one. That's great. Actually, you just want to get the glass deal now. Oh, yeah, I don't have to get it right away. Maybe even want to get the siege storage before both of them. I think that's correct. The sooner we get the siege storage, the more we benefit from those like extra turns of dust production. Oh, sorry, food production. So this is an unspoiled ruins. You always have to check which are the temple ruins, because those ruins matter for the dust eclipse. And unspoiled ruins don't reactivate during the dust eclipse, so they are second tier ruins at best. Now, what signs do we want to get? This is nice if you have river tiles, if we need extra dust, but we're not really a dust dependent civilization, and we don't have river tiles, so we're not going to go for that. This is nice for dust if we want dust. It's just a basic dust upgrade. Basic science upgrade is probably a bit more important right now. We've sort of ridden the science wave of the early settle quite well, but I think we just want the public library eventually, and we can't really delay it that much anymore. Okay, let's move up. Collected more dust and ions, which is great. And let's look at this. Build the geomic labs and we get this upgrade. So that's nice, we're going to do that eventually. And we basically got a free upgrade by searching that ruins in the long term. I mean, stress on the long term here. Let's go up there. Now what else? We could cheat this out to turn early. And it's only 34 dust. Why not? I'm just... This is basically watching me be a compulsive spender. It's fine. It's fine. Also, I don't mention this, but these lava flows have tremendous defensive values for us. I mean, it's quite hard to defend your cities in Endless Legend. So, and oh, we've just picked up wine. That's great. Anyway, so it's quite hard to defend your cities. So if we place it, for instance, on lava flow, we won't take damage because we're Kapaku and we don't worry about that. Our golems are immune to fire. We're immune to fire. But enemy forces might have to cross a river of fire to get to us, which might make these locations desirable from a like defensive strategic point of view. Let's talk here. They don't want to talk to us because, I don't know, they're assholes. Jerks. Anyway. In that case, we'll just keep moving. Here are temple ruins and more temple ruins. That's something to keep in mind for in That's something to keep in mind in 6 turns. Click button. Nope, they don't want to talk. Douchebags. It looks like we're on an island, actually. For some reason, I'm beginning a lot more islands. Strange. And that means we don't have to worry about the AI just waltzing over and murdering us. At least not at this point in the game. Oh, that's great. We got enough glass steel that we can go back here and talk to those people. I really like the score. Well, I don't like it as much as the Endless Legends Phase 2 score, but like, yeah. Well, can't improve on perfection. Geomic labs. We can get 10 extra science from this. We'll probably just wait for the public library. And then pick up geomic labs after that. Or, you know, maybe we'll get a settler, actually. The problem is with getting a settler is that it negates the value we're getting off. How quickly can we build a settler? 3 turns. The later we build a settler in some ways, the better, because we have to set up and place some things here. Like, we have to place the volcano former at least 5 turns in advance. So we're going to have to circle back with this unit. Is that a... No, it's not support the ruins. And we want to make sure that we keep tabs on all of these temple ruins. Collect as much dust as we can in Eclipse. And set ourselves up to buy a mercenary market. Wonderful. If we volcano form 10 tiles, we'll get way more glass steel, which means we can volcano form more tiles, and actually then we run out of glass steel. But that's basically it. Oh, and I forgot to mention, we got wine, which is great, and glass silk, which is not great. The point is, if we're going to maximize the value we get from these, if we just wait and use them exactly as we build the new settlement, but we get more value from them right now by using them right now, obviously. So that's a trade-off we have to make. We'll have to think about. Again, I'm just gonna wait till I can volcano from this region. Again, you can't really do much before you can actually start volcano. And you can't actually do much if you can't start volcano forming in terms of colonization, which is not bad. I mean, you don't have to be super fast as long as you get there in the end. Unspoiled ruins. More unspoiled ruins. Let's just search around this part of the island. And that's a temple ruin, and that's a temple ruin. So we just want to keep our army around here for the dust eclipse, which is happening soon. Yeah. I'm not sure what I'll do with this video, this walkthrough. If it turns out really well, I'll call this a guide. Otherwise, it'll be Let's Play. Because I have the power of foresight. Alright. Let's just pick up public library. We can put our workers into food, but it seems like the food is doing fine. It seems like everything is doing fine, actually. Put into dust? Why not? Or we can put it into influence, actually. Do we really need influence, though? Let me just figure out what to do with these workers later. After I choose a research. So our sciences are turning out really well in this playthrough. Like, we already have, like 6 out of 9 for the next tier, and we're on turn 10, which is kind of silly. I guess we want Empire Mint is something we want to get, and Mercenary Marketplace is something we want to get. And I guess Sewer System is not bad. I suspect that Geomancer is garbage. I've never used it, but the Golem Riders are so good. And somehow I don't see what the Geomancer is going to add to my army if I have to cut Golem Rider slots. And if I have to cut the infantry I'm going to use to make sure that my Golem Riders don't take too many hits. I haven't actually tried the Geomancer. I might at some point. I might actually do it in this playthrough just to make sure I've tried it. But it doesn't seem like any buff is going to be super worth it. Yeah. I'm not sure what Geomancy does, actually. It would have to be a really powerful buff to be better than one extra unit of these. We'll probably pick it up later. We're not rushing to get there. We can pick up ships. How close are we to how convenient is it for us to go to the sea? This area, we probably want to settle down over here, and then that's relatively far away from the sea. But we can make golem camps closer to the sea. So we can get to the sea, or like over here, we can get to the sea relatively quickly. But at that point, why don't we get like a fire ship or something that's just better than a boarding vessel? By the way, boarding vessels are basically the dumpster tier of ships. You want to move off them. They're good for the start of the game, if you're trying to get control of other regions. But I feel like, especially with naval action, or like on the sea, if there are nearby fortresses or something we can control, we want to make sure we can control them with powerful ships and not just capture them and then lose. Because it's so easy to lose a fortress, basically. If you don't know what I'm talking about, it's the Fomorian expansion. The one where you can get... the one where you unlock the Morgor. We'll talk about that. I'll explain that better if we actually get to that part of the game. And it's also possible that there aren't actually fortresses nearby, and it's just like islands, but we're just connected with our neighbors here. And in that case, we're not getting value out of ships. What we want is the shipyards so we can transport land armies over or whatever. Unless we're using the ships as a buffer to try and pick off their armies before. But I don't feel like we're going to be that weak on military on the ground that we have to do that. This extractor is neat to have, but we just have to check that we don't have actually anything of value to extract in territories we want. So we want this territory. Doesn't look like anything to extract. And in general, I haven't seen anything I really want apart from emeralds, which can go to hell. So I'm not interested in this at the moment. That kind of makes me feel like I want to pick up Sewer System as our final upgrade here. This is something I quite like, giving us bonus happiness in the city. I'm quite bad at managing my happiness in general. And technically Central Market is better, but they work well together. Because you get bonuses on Happy and Fervent. And if you have 2 happiness buildings in the city, you can really stack that up and make sure you keep getting those bonuses. And yeah, it looks like we're a bit starved on luxuries, at least for now. Maybe in 3rd tier we'll unlock some good luxuries in our region, but I'm not thrilled on using emeralds to try and boost our happiness. So let's see how volcano forming works, because we have to volcano form here. That just seems like such a good settle, like the bonus happiness. And the way you volcanoform is you click on this, and it converts them into a volcanoformer. So initially it costs 2 of that resource, but the more volcanoformers you've made with that resource, the more it costs. So it goes from 2 to 4 to 6, etc. So the first ones are cheap, but it becomes more expensive. And that is a incredible output on this tile. So we definitely want a volcanoform here. Like, that's absolutely wonderful. We'll just send this soldier out here. Do some checking out of these ruins. Yeah. This is just a really great spot. We should volcanoform something else in this region, but we're not... The region isn't overflowing with... Well, we have quite a few strategics. But maybe we want to check this other region first and double expand before committing to terraforming more of this region. I'm not actually sure. But it doesn't actually matter as well because we're about to give away most of our glass steel for this colonization thing. Alright. I don't actually care about this quest to kill these people. I'm not into that kind of thing. Like murdering your friends. Wait, what have I just done? Oops. In 4 turns we have to bounce back here. That shouldn't be an issue. Our hero is quite fast. So I guess we'll just bounce our hero over there, put a volcanoform on this tile, which is someone off volcanic already. And then we'll have 2 good settle locations. And we can always expand our volcanoformer base if we feel like we want to expand our cities a bit more. Let's go out for that ruins. Go out for that ruins. Just pick up this public library. It doesn't actually matter where we put our stuff in. Or workers in. Actually, it matters in this one because we pick up Empire Men sooner. But at the same time, this lets us increase our dust production. Is that something we really want right now? Maybe. The question is, do I care enough about getting Empire Men 1 turn sooner? Am I okay with spending on geomic labs? This gives us 10 bonus science, it's no joke. Or we can go for that, which gives us more resources than that, which is also no joke, but also takes longer. Or we can go for a settler. And that'll take us... It'll cost us 3 turns of population growth. Let me decide that after I've got new population, I can see how long it will take for an extra population to grow. I guess Empire Mint... I guess we'll prioritize Science over Dust for now. Cool, so those were, I guess, a fairly eventful starting 10 turns, and it worked, I think, kind of well for us. We have this idea set up of colonizing this place, which is an excellent spot. As long as this beautiful volcanoformer gets to work. And once we've colonized that, we can pick up the emeralds we need to pacify this village. And then we'll have 2 good places, and we have another place locked up over here. As soon as we volcanoform this region. We're set up reasonably well to take advantage of the dust eclipse. So in general, I feel quite happy with our start here. And also we're on an island, which is great because... yeah, just endless AI if can just go home. They're horrible. They always have more resources than you. They attack you relentlessly. If you upset them by having the audacity to just beat their neighbors, they can relatively quickly declare war on you, and you really have to gear up your military forces by turn 40 at least, because it's possible at turn 50 that they have a 6 stack of units ready to march into your territory and crush you. So we have to worry a bit less about that because we are separated by the sea, which is neat. Although I think the Kapaku military units, in particular this amazing Golem Rider, are solid enough that we can think about expanding militarily at some point during the game. So this is my first endless legend walkthrough / playthrough / let's see how it goes. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed, I hope you learned something, and I hope you'll tune in for further episodes.